Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. We've been going live with guests on 4 p.m. on weekdays to talk about information that will help parents get a great education for their kids. Because there's lots of different options in San Antonio. It can be hard to navigate all of that, but San Antonio Charter Moms is here to help. And so we have a new guest post on the blog today, and we get to talk about play-based learning. And so our guest is Adriana Becerra, and she's the founder creator of Joy Holistic Education. And so it's a private school, but she's implementing a lot of ideas that she's developed in her career, and then becoming a mom made the impulse to let's bring this to life. Let's make this happen in the real world. So I encourage everybody to, if you haven't read it already, the guest post, it's at sachartermoms.com. There's also a link in the description of the video, so you can click through that way. So I encourage you to read it. I learned a ton from it. But I'm really happy that we get to have a conversation and bring some of this information to life. And if you're a mom who's busy and doesn't have time to read, but you do have time for YouTube or a podcast or Facebook, then we're here for you. So thank you, Adriana.
Thank you, Inga. I'm very happy to be here and for the opportunity to share about our philosophy and methodology at Joy.
Yeah. Okay. So I know it's a small school and it's fairly new. So if for people who haven't heard about Joy Holistic Education yet, could you kind of lay out like the mission and vision?
Yeah, we are a very, very small school. We're going to have 50, a capacity for 50 children. The idea is to have this small school in which we pilot different curriculum, and then we can take it to other private and public schools to promote holistic experiences. I think our mission is to create a better world through holistic education. And when I say holistic education is that our purpose is much more than academics, but the heart of our mission is on empowering people to realize their identity, their purpose, and their ability to create a better world.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. You mentioned about like proving how it works at Joy, but then also like showing other schools how it works too. And I think one thing that just really captured me about reading the blog post was you talk about how play-based learning is so valuable, but then sometimes parents worry or educators might worry that it's not going to prepare kids for our system, which has accountability and has standardized testing and things like that. And what you're demonstrating is that it's not an either or. We can have it's a both and, right? Children can experience play-based learning and get the foundation to succeed, even in a very academic, like assessment-oriented system, the way it is for upper grades, right?
Yeah, I think I completely understand this hesitation about play-based schools or play-based learning, or this idea about it, is it academic focus or is it play-based, like if there are different things. When I was a teacher at the beginning of my career, I remember sharing this kind of like doubt or making me stop about like, what am I doing is right? Am I doing the correct thing for these kids? Am I preparing them for the future? And knowing that the theories in early childhood education, play is just how children learn. Like that's it, right? It's like how children make sense of the world. So it requires us to step out of the way we've been teaching and learning. I didn't learn to be a teacher using this play-based model when I went to school. I was not educated in a system where play-based learning is, so it's hard to understand how can we like really accomplish academic success through play-based learning. But when we step out of that box and we really lean into the theory and into the research, and we prepare ourselves and prepare our teachers through this which is not new though, like I'm saying new idea just because it's rare, but through this approach, we can see amazing results. We can see both things happening. We can see children that are reading and writing and understanding math concepts at their grade level or beyond, but we can also see children that are playing outside and walking barefoot and taking naps and having like a much more relaxed routine. You don't have to choose between those two things. It's a lot of work for the teachers, though. It's not about like just crossing your arms and saying, "Okay, so we're just gonna let the kids play." No, it's a lot of intentional planning and a lot of intentional scaffolding, but these things can happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, like, there's a phrase in the blog post that jumped out at me that, like, I guess for young children, play is their work, right? That's how
Yeah.
they learn. I don't can you kind of explain more about that?
Yes, so we use the term play-based learning in education and psychology to describe how children learn, right? It's like literally learning through play. And it is because through play, children can actively engage with other people, with their environment, with new concepts or the idea. And this is how they make sense of the world. So when we think about, so children, this is work time for children, this is playtime for children. That is not real, or that is not true. Like work is how children play, is how children work, play is how children make sense of the world. So it's we should not be relegating it to recess only. We should be incorporating it in our daily practices so they have the opportunity to learn in a better in a much more appropriate way.
Yeah. So, I think that, what I can imagine, I'm thinking about conversations I've had with parents or, like, conversations in the Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook, and, parents are coming from different perspectives, but I think, like, every parent wants an education that prepares their child for a future where they have choices and they're prepared, and, that, whatever they branch off into, right, that they have that foundation. And I think that causes some parents to look for programs that have, like, more homework or have, like, a more structured schedule
Yeah.
during the day. So I guess I mean, at Joy, like, how do you find that right balance between, like, making sure that the kids are getting that academic foundation, but making sure that they have, like, that agency and that freedom in, how they do their activities?
Yeah, there are many things that need to happen, right? I think the first one is like really knowing our state standards and our guidelines and understanding child development. Like that's number one. If we know our guidelines, if we know our standards, and we know where children should be learning at different levels, then we can trust them more, and that through play they will learn independently. Many of those learning standards they can learn them by themselves, right? And a lot of the other standard, like the rest of the standards, then the teacher needs to support the learning there. The other thing too is that there are other things that need to be in place to make sure that we meet academic standards through play. One of them is, I think there's a misconception about there's only one teacher in the classroom. So there's one teacher in the classroom responsible of the learning of 30 kids, right? When you have mixed age classrooms like we have at Joy, you don't have only one teacher. You have several kids that are ready to be the teachers in the classroom, and that way they master knowledge too. So that helps a lot. The other thing too is that the environment acts as a third teacher. So if you go to a classroom and you see only desks and the kids sit there and they just sit in the desk and engage with books and with materials and with concepts, but the learning environment is not fostering other type of learning, then you do rely in the teacher more. But if we plan intentional and we craft learning environments and we select the right materials so children can engage in art and science and math and literacy and all of this, then the environment helps the teacher a lot. So that's what we call it, that the environment is the third teacher. So there are a lot of pieces that are happening at the same time. As the kids are playing, the teacher can be assessing the child in a more natural way. We
Mhm.
know, and I think we've been talking a lot about like the anxiety that is created when kids are tested, or when teachers or when kids need to prove that they know something. And if we remove that barrier of testing and we just have the kid as they're engaging in the math area and additions and subtractions, and the teachers is observing and they are assessing them there in a more natural way, then that will give the teacher a lot of information to plan projects and other type of instructions. So I think the first thing is to not separate them. You can have assessments and you can have academic content through play.
Yeah. But and, I wonder, as a side note, like, for, folks who are watching, like, if you haven't read the blog post yet, the blog post includes links to some of these, like the assessments, like, so if you're wondering, like, "Well, how does this work?" Right? And then, the idea is that as the children are playing, the teachers are looking for like, oh, look, they held their pencil or they made marks or, oh, they did a back and forth with another student or, and so it's observing those things, but it's not like the student never feels like they're on the spot or they're because
Yep.
it can affect the results of the assessment if the child is in like unfavorable circumstances where they feel inhibited or anxious about it.
Yeah, and also it gives you a more realistic picture of what the child can do or cannot do yet. Because it's how often does the child can that you can see this skill in the child, right? And it's not like one single test. It's just they have many opportunities for them to show that.
Mhm. And, yeah, the blog post also, well, well, you've mentioned it here, and then it also talked about in the blog post, like, how much, work it is on the oh, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Okay, so, like, you mentioned that there are state standards for, early childhood, and people may not know that because I think to the extent that families are aware of the state standards, they know that that's the underpinning of STAR testing. The STAR testing doesn't start until 3rd grade, but there are TEKS for the younger grades, and that's when you mentioned, like, like, it's incumbent on, like, you as a leader and then the teachers to be familiar with those standards and make sure that as they're creating these opportunities for play-based learning, that they are meeting what's in the TEKS for early childhood.
Yeah, and actually, what something that is really helpful is that TEA aligns the standards from pre-K to 2nd grade. So that's what we consider early childhood, pre-K to 2nd grade. So you can see the standards for every domain: literacy, language, math, how it looks in pre-K, how it looks in kinder, how it looks in 1st grade and 2nd grade. And this is aligned to the assessment that we use. We use the GOLD assessment. And so you can see the progression of skills since they're little until they're in 2nd grade. And what I also love about preparing our teachers with the use of this alignment tool, that this tool that is aligned, is that if a child masters a skill, they don't have to stop there, right? So for example, when you have a child in 1st grade that is performing at a 2nd grade, you don't have to say, oh, the child already mastered the skill, this is it, see you until next year. But you can easily move to the next level or the other way around if you need to.
Yeah. Well, I think I mean, it's so valuable that, you're, you know, helping the teachers understand this. And I think that's part of, like your broader mission is like not just to create this environment for a small group of students at Joy, but it also, it's to spread these good ideas in the community. And I want to encourage parents too that like, you can look under the hood, you can look at the materials and I think understanding, where like what makes a good school and like, where teachers and leaders are coming from, I think it helps, parents to be like a better partner and to understand like what are they doing at school? Like why is this valuable? Like why is early childhood education so valuable? And it can feel intimidating, like, like I came into like, running a nonprofit, like, not ever thinking I would ever do anything related to education, but I felt like it was necessary for me to learn so that I could guide my own children. I realized how hard it was, and so I was inspired to help guide other children or other families, so that their children can get a good education too. But like, so I did not study anything about education in college, like, but these things are doable, they're learnable, and it helps to, for myself, it's helped to be able to visit campuses and observe like places like Pre-K for SA, right, that are using best
Yeah.
practices. And, I'm sure that, like as families, learn about more about what you're doing, that they appreciate the genius behind it and like why there's a system to it, there's a purpose to it.
Yeah, I think you're making a great point. I think the families that are welcome at Joy are more aligned to this type of methodologies, people that are choosing this type of this approach to education. But when I was at Pre-K for SA, that it's a lot more kids, and we have like there were 4 centers in the city. We have some parents worried about the type of education, right? Like they come to the teacher and it's like, where's the worksheet, or what is exactly the letter of the day that they learned? And it is because everybody wants the best for kids, right? Teachers and parents
Mhm.
that are in education, we just want the best for kids, so we want to see that our kids are progressing. but it's exactly changing the way we think about education, like what's the focus and what's the approach, and educate not only children, but parents and teachers and everybody involved to give it a try. And relying not on new ideas, honestly. We are going back to Piaget and Vygotsky and all the theories in education. It's not about, oh, I have a great idea, this is how children learn. But if we go back to the research and we go back to the theories, this is how children should be learning. So I don't know when we like lost track of this, but I'm hopeful because I see this happening in more public schools every day. Um, and I'm hopeful because I see teachers in everywhere, like in public schools and private schools, giving it a try to this type of learning. So I think we are slowly but surely moving in the right direction
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Texas. Yeah.
going back to the fundamentals of child development and
Yeah.
having the activities that kids do in school be play based so that it is age appropriate for what young children need to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the blog post, I thought one a helpful illustration you made was talking about like what are the different things that the teachers do in one-on-one versus small group versus large group. And as I was reading it, I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, so can you kind of explain how you structure that?
Yeah, I think there is a time and space for everything, right? Even though I am a person who believes that play-based is the way of learning, when you're going to teach a child to cross the street, it's not going to be through play-based learning, right? And we have to balance that. Like for crossing the street, it's going to be very, very directed, very adult directed. This is what you need to do. So same in the daily routine. So the way we do is, and this is what I always, this is the first thing that I advise when I visit other schools that want to transform their models, is like, look at your daily schedule and let's try to see if we have the right balance. Do we have a good amount of free play? Are we sure that we have at least one small group? I would recommend two small groups, and at least one or two large group instruction, right? And then you select the type of activities that you want to do on each of them, on each of these sections in the daily routine. So free play, we talked about it. It's the way this is where the teacher is going to get all the ideas to plan for projects and for activities and just to learn about the child and assess the child and make sure that she's incorporating everything into the other parts of the daily routine. One-on-one instruction, we use it for certain skills that we want to support the kids learning. So reading is one of the biggest examples I choose, just because the teacher sits with the child and makes sure the like reads with the child, and this can look like the teacher reading to the child, because we also want to cultivate the love for reading and not only decoding words and decoding letters. So we want to create opportunities for the child to enjoy the book and enjoy the narrative and the stories and fall in love with that. But also it gives a lot of information to the teacher about where the child is and what support they need. So it's a more one-on-one situation. During small groups, there are two types of small groups that we do. One of them is mixed age and mixed level. So you mix them, right? So you have children from 3 years old to 6 years old. Everybody gets a set of materials, and the teacher can explain what's the goal. So, for example, there's a math concept, but then every child can use the materials and go in a different direction. So maybe the idea of the teacher was adding and subtracting, but the child is counting from here to 1,000, right? So the teacher will not tell the child, "Hey, we're adding and subtracting." Like the teacher will go to that child and help them guide their learning to what the child decided to learn. In this type of small groups, what I loved again is that you don't only have one teacher, you have several teachers in that small group. So it's just amazing how you, and if you go to the blog post, you see one of the pictures that it was selected that I loved is a child who's 5 and a little girl who's 3, and how that relationship is just amazing and full of learning, right? So small group instruction, we use it for academic content and for giving opportunities for the smaller kids learn from the older kids in a more structured environment, and giving opportunities for the older kids to be the teachers and master that knowledge, right? Large group instruction is to build community, and I think this is the hardest thing to shift our minds from the way we're used to teach and learn. But when we do large group in preschools, it's not no longer than 10 to 15 minutes. In our elementary classroom, it might be like 20 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is the longest we will go. And it's not to process academic content. It's more about for building community. We use it for meditating or for telling a story or for solving problems in the classroom. We have classroom meetings in which we have this big problem about the markers. This is the third time the teacher brings markers out. So what are we going to do? Or I remember we had 3 kids in our elementary classroom who spoke English, and they came from a different schools, and there were 2 girls and 1 boy. And then there was another group that only spoke Spanish. And what they were doing is during free play, you could see the kids grouping the English speakers and the Spanish speakers, right? So the teacher for 1 month used large group only to foster activities in which you build community between these 2 groups. And now you cannot see it. Like you can see the Spanish speaking students and the English speaking students completely like playing together and being one single community. So large group instruction is much more for that than really like teaching academic content. But again, there's a place and space for everything. So it's going back to your daily routine and making sure that you have all of this times plugged, and that we can support kids in their learning process through different elements in the day.
Yeah, I think that like that's different than what people have come to expect. I think a lot of parents, grew up with like large group was, the teacher at the board or everybody's got a worksheet and we're all working on the same thing. And but then like when I talk to my friends, like a lot of us experience frustration, feeling like we didn't get enough differentiation, although we might not have known it was called that, but or like our own kids, experience frustration if the group is ahead of or behind what they need right then. And how you describe the small group is, like with the mixed ages that, like the older kids are teaching stuff to the younger kids. And each kid may approach it in their own way, and the teacher's going to reinforce that instead of like redirecting and say, no, 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 we're all supposed to do it this way.
Yeah.
And then for the really specific things that, I mean, I know there's times when, for my son to learn a math concept, he really just needed that one-on-one time, whether it was after school or, if we hired a private tutor, like that was what it took, to really cement that, so that he have that strong foundation and keep building on that. So like understanding like what works in different contexts.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, resources for differentiation. It's from the high scope curriculum. It's a curriculum in the like created in the United States, and it's about for small group instruction. So if you have 10 kids in your small group, you will divide them in like 3 different levels: early, middle, and late, and you will have a theory for how children will interact with the material. So you will say, so and so will do this. So it is just a theory. You don't know if it's going to happen or not. And then the middle kids will interact in this way, and the advanced kids will interact in this way. But then it gives you a chance to make a plan on how you're going to support those 3 levels, right? So when you go to your small group, you already have the questions you're going to ask. You already like have a plan of how you're going to differentiate. And many times maybe they're going to do something different, but as you get to know your group more, you kind of your theories get more accurate and you can support better. So I always say that differentiation, it's a way of teaching. Is just when we master differentiation, you can do it at the moment, and you can and it's not like just planning for kids that are advanced or that kids that need extra help, but it's like knowing that every single activity that you do in the classroom needs differentiation.
Right. Right.
But
Because
that's
each
what
kid
I'm
is unique.
saying, that it's a lot of work for the teachers. It's because a lot of people, and this is the misconception, that play-based learning, it's about we let the kids play, right? And the adult is there to make sure that they're safe and they don't get hurt. But no, it's a lot of intentional planning, a lot of intentional like planning for support and scaffolding.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, in the blog post you talk about there's curriculums that you created that are And so I was wondering if you could describe each of those. Again, it's like, play-based sounds so simple, but there's so much work that underpins it, right? But if you do the preparation, it really comes out through the classroom. So,
Right.
well, in the blog post, there's a photo of a child like looking at his reflection in the mirror, right? So mirror, mirror is one of the curricula, right?
Yes, I think going back to my teaching years, I was very lucky to taught in a school that used this play-based approach. So it was very early in my career that I like got immersed in this approach of learning. But I think the new curriculums, what you're talking about, it's what's been guiding me for the rest 10 years, that it was more about, so what are we teaching in schools? Like, what is the focus of education? And when we go back to many of the visions and the missions and the purpose of education in the United States is about creating good citizens, right? Creating, making sure that kids are good citizens, which is great. But what I found out in all these years and in my different roles as a teacher, as a consultant, as a leader in schools, is that the problems that we're facing in the world right now, or the things that we collectively want to see change, are not addressed or prioritized in our schools. Maybe they're extracurriculars, or maybe they are written down in our visionary statements. But like, are we really making sure that, again, going back to the daily routine, incorporating this in a daily basis? Is this our priority? So my intention is for Joy to create, to like keep asking this question and creating curriculum resources based on play and based on best practices for other schools and teachers to do. But right now we have identified uh, four curriculums, and these are the ones that we are focusing on. One, it's Mirror Mirror, and it was about, there's self-esteem, self-empowerment, emotional well-being. I don't think I have to sell this, like the importance of this. And my realization at, again, like at Pre-K4SA, was that we had amazing teachers at Pre-K4SA. I would say the best of the best, a lot of professional development, and we still were struggling with supporting children with trauma, or supporting children that really needed help with emotional. And we were using the best curriculum, and we were using the best resources, and I think we had the resources to like really train our teachers. So I was, what's going on? There's just a gap in the field. Like, there's not enough resources out there, or we just so after a lot of research, we included this curriculum that it's about children playing with the mirror, honestly. So they stand in front of the mirror and they say positive affirmations. So you can start really simple with, I'm beautiful, or I'm strong, or I can do great things. And when we started piloting this curriculum, we realized that it was moving a lot of emotions on the kids. It was not something simple. It was not just, oh, I'm strong, perfect. Like, there were tears coming up, and we were a little bit scared. Okay, so what do we do now? Right? So we decided to start with teachers first. The same way that we say that teachers bring their culture to the classroom, I truly believe, and I've seen that teachers bring their self-esteem and their emotional well-being to the classrooms. So how do we support teachers in their journey to love themselves more first, so they can teach that to the kids? And I would say this to the parents too, right? Now, me as a mom, so like, I want my child to love himself. Well, I need to learn how to love myself too. So we're creating a bunch of resources for adults who take care of children, and for children. The other one is The Earth is My Home, and it's basically play outside as much as you can. uh, the the tagline there for us is that we're asking our children to save an earth that they don't know. So it's, oh, the earth needs a lot of help, but it's, what is earth? And we're staying inside of a classroom the entire day. So how do kids climb trees again and connect with dirt and with grass and with insects and everything, so they can feel connected to the earth? And then later on, we'll talk about, okay, you know what? There's some problems with our earth right now. How can we be active change makers. The other one is Gracias San Antonio. So this one was created, I think, maybe 8 years ago, and and it was about how can we connect young children to civic education. Civic education is mostly relegated to older grades and to textbooks. So what we did is just the classroom in San Antonio. It's not only our school, so we go out on city explorations and we engage the families to just get to know the city. In schools where you have families that do not have the opportunities to go to museums or go to this type of places that maybe people just think they're not accessible for them, I think it's just a great way of opening the door to everybody for what San Antonio has to offer, and just making like just helping the kids to feel a strong connection to the city and fall in love with it. Then they choose a organization through our Gracias San Antonio elections. So this happens in November or when real elections are happening and the kids vote for a local organization. They ended up with their sticker that says, I voted today, motivating their parents to, okay, now you need to vote in the real election. So for us this year, our children selected animal care services. So they created art throughout the year, and we're getting ready for our San Antonio, Gracias San Antonio Art Gallery that it's going to happen on May 7th. For everybody's invited to come, and they will auction the art pieces, and whatever we collect, all the money that we collect, all the proceeds is going to go to support ACS. So it's the full cycle of I'm 4, but I know my city, and I can impact my city even though I'm 3 or 5 or 6 years old, right? So we are one. It's our newest curriculum, and we are really exploring different ideas on how to bring this to the classroom in a safe manner. So it's just we talk about equity in schools. I think we all want to see equity in the way we teach and learn and the access, but sometimes we're scared about talking about privilege and racism with our younger kids because it's uncomfortable, honestly, and because we are scared of saying the wrong things, and because we are scared of scaring children, or because we just so I think what we pretend to do with We Are One is giving the skills again to teachers to be able to have these conversations in a safe way with young children, so we can trust them that they can be agents of change. I think we think that young children don't understand, but they understand perfectly if we explain them how things are working and how we want to see them changed. So those are our 4 new curriculums, and again, we want to continue creating resources just to make sure that we are creating a better world and it's not only focusing on academics.
Yeah. Well, those are, I mean, those are all things that, yeah, as you described them, I think, wow, that's really important. We need more of that, and we also need to be introducing these ideas to young children because that's laying that foundation. And then, like you said, like we need, the adults to, like it's good for the parents to go out in the city too. It's good for,
Yeah.
you mentioned like with Mirror Mirror, like the adults need to heal our own issues about self-esteem, and then we're able to support our children better. And with We Are One, like as adults, like we need to question ourselves about equity and about our systemic bias, and then we're better able to guide our children, even if it feels uncomfortable to talk about these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's all about adults, right? Joy is about kids and we serve kids, but we have to work with the adult. If not, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you've already shared some great stories about, I love the, like older kids helping younger kids, but can you think of any another like example of, kind of how the school culture at Joy works? And I want to encourage everybody, go visit the blog post because I love the photos that you shared with us about, how the learning is happening. You're like playing with the baby dolls and, like playing outside and, what the kids are writing and what they want to share.
Yeah, I think if you come visit our school, you'll see a very relaxed atmosphere. You'll see not only our preschool children playing outside, making mud pies, but also our first and second graders They take naps in first grade or second grade at least 15 minutes, and then they will be up. But it's a time to for reset and for uh, be okay. I think one of the things that I love the most is when I heard some of the little girls, they're going to first grade, saying, it's been a stressful morning. I just need to go to meditate, right? And that they don't need us to facilitate a large group instruction anymore, but they just go and just access that in their toolbox. For me, it's just amazing. The other part that I loved is the conflict resolution piece. And we start at a very young age, supporting kids to resolve their own conflict. And maybe there's a lot more intervention of adults in the younger age, because we have to model, or we have to tell them, I know that you both want this toy. We have a big problem. How can we solve it? And the teacher stays there for a long time because the ideas are not there. But then when you see it in first grade, that almost never they go to the teacher to say, hey, we have this problem, because they can figure out 90% of their problems by themselves. It's just something that it's amazing. Um, Also, that something else that defines our school culture is our parents. We have a very strong community that care not only about their own children, but about the rest of the kids there. So if somebody's sick, they will tell you, I'm not going to take my child to school because I want to protect the school. So very caring and very committed parents. So I just love it.
Yeah. Well, that makes so much sense what you're saying about, like, that, like, the teachers need to put in the work to model these behaviors like conflict resolution, or, the kids learning how to self-regulate through meditation, but then seeing the kids pick up those skills, like that's got to be so rewarding. And that ties back to something you mentioned earlier, where, like, education needs to be this foundation about how we're shaping citizens, and this is how it plays out into, like, what kind of society we have in the future, because the cultures that we have in schools, like that's how we build our future, and hopefully it's better than what we've been experiencing.
Yeah. And going back to play-based learning, we cannot find opportunities for conflict resolution, for conflict to happen, or for socialization to happen in structured activities. We have to give them the opportunity to be in free play 2 hours, so these things happen, and then we can model and help them resolve these issues.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think back about, there was a year that I homeschooled my son because, like, the school we wanted hadn't opened yet, and it turned out to be a year when we made a lot of progress on things like going out in the world. Like, that was back when the Children's Museum was down on Houston Street, and so we'd have to navigate the sights and sounds of a busy city and how to be safe, and like, lots of unexpected things would happen, but I was able to guide him through that and, like, model um how to have conversations with people, and that was what he needed that year, and he probably wouldn't have been able to get that in a typical, like, a more structured learning setting. So, but it helped him. So my son's on the autism spectrum, and that helped lay a foundation so he was able to develop better social skills and better self-regulation once he did get to a campus. So
Yeah, my entire career has been in public schools before Joy, so I think I was formed and committed to create better public schools. But now that I open Joy too, I get inspired often, and I joined a lot of homeschool groups because of their approach to education that I was not familiar until now. And I think we can learn a lot from what they're doing
yeah, yeah,
in a school setting. So it's the
right,
merger of
right,
the two
right.
things, right?
Yeah, take the good ideas. That, right. I mean, that's what I mean. Charter schools are supposed to be, laboratories to test out different ideas, and you're testing out new curriculum and new ideas, and, well, not new ideas. You're demonstrating how play-based learning works, in a private school, but it's meant to be, to demonstrate and help spread these ideas, right, through professional development, or through parents being able to come visit and understand the value of this.
Yeah. And again, it's trusting child development theories is because it is scary. I don't want to say it wasn't or it's easy. Also, my experience was always with preschool. So now when I opened Joy and we opened the elementary classroom, and I knew, like, I had the knowledge and the theory to know that this works. But when it was time for implementation, I was scared too. And I think it's important to say that. It's like, are we sure that if they take this 15-minute nap, we're not losing time on instruction? Are we sure we don't have to, like, sit them down for 3 hours and, like, really make sure they're learning? they're learning this, but decided to trust child development theory and trust children and just give it a try. And it was just amazing to see the results, and see that the approach works. So the kids are reading and writing and understanding concept at their grade level, but they're also enjoying life and living in a much more relaxed routine.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, I hope the families, will click through, read the blog post. I hope folks have enjoyed, hearing this conversation. I know I've learned a ton from, reading the blog post and from talking these through with you. I hope some families are interested to, potentially enroll their kids at Joy. So I was wondering if you could share, like, the how to, like, how can families learn more? How can they get connected? How can they get their kids enrolled?
Yes, we will have more openings in June. So we're excited about that because we're opening a new classroom and some of our kids are graduating. So we'll have openings in June for the people that are interested. And you can visit our website that it's joyholisticedu.com, and you can send us a WhatsApp there or give us a call.
I'll go ahead and put the phone number on the screen. I'll read it out loud for in case anyone on the podcast and they can't see the screen. It's 210-455-0713. And I know you have your email up on the website too. So it's creator@joyholisticedu.com.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and so I know, so it goes up to second grade, and then how young children? It's
Two
age
years
2,
old.
2 years old.
So
Okay.
2 years old to second grade for right now. Hopefully we can grow to third grade and figure out the entire elementary school.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really exciting. That what you're describing with play-based learning, it makes sense because you're able to explain, like, okay, this is what we do one-on-one, small group, large group, right? This is how it connects with the TEKS. This is how, through the goal assessment, you're able to evaluate, in a more natural way and see what kids really are able to do, and to let them keep growing. It's not just they're just not capped at grade level. They can keep advancing. So there's a lot of good stuff happening. It just doesn't necessarily look the same as
Yeah.
what a typical, like, more structured environment.
Yes. And we have a conference with the parents twice a year. So we really engage them in this assessment process. They have a say because sometimes, like, some of the skills they don't, like for the little ones, they just don't show them at school, but they perform them perfectly at home. So they have like a say in the assessment too, and help us to plan the individual goals for each child.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Wow. Okay, well, this has been a great conversation. I really
thank
think to
you.
learn more about joy and, like, and help spread these ideas, because that's what we try to do, is, like, spread good ideas in education so families can make choices and find schools that are the right fit for their children.
Yes. Thank you for much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I love the San Antonio Charters Mom blog. I
Oh,
joined long before I opened Joy, and I think just having the choice to choose whatever is right for your child is powerful. So thank you for giving us this platform, Inga.
oh, thank you so much. Okay, well, it's been great talking with you, Adriana. Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.